For the last 30 years, global trade operated on a single governing principle: absolute efficiency. Corporations built hyper-globalized networks where parts crossed oceans and borders to arrive on assembly lines exactly when needed. This just-in-time model cut inventory costs to the bone and kept consumer prices low. But running a system with zero slack carries a hidden risk. By stripping away backup inventory and relying on perfectly timed, uninterrupted trade flows, companies built a global production machine that was entirely exposed to external shocks. When a convergence of global pandemics, maritime conflicts, and geopolitical tensions hit, that machine broke. Medical instruments, semiconductors, and basic consumer goods disappeared, costing the global economy hundreds of billions of dollars in delayed or lost inventory. Now, corporations face a difficult economic reality. They must rebuild their networks to handle volatile disruptions. But building in that resilience, adding backup suppliers and redundant capacity, requires accepting a 15 to 25% cost premium over the old efficiency-focused models. To manage these higher costs, the logistics industry is shifting the geography of trade. They are moving production nodes closer to end consumers and digitizing the documentation that used to stall for days at the border. This shift starts at the origin point of the supply chain. For decades, global manufacturing relied heavily on a single nation for its output. But as recent trade disputes and regional lockdowns showed, concentrating your entire production base in one place creates a catastrophic bottleneck risk. The response is China plus one. Corporations keep primary manufacturing anchors in China while building parallel lines in secondary global hubs. Only a few locations have capacity to handle this massive shift. Vietnam and Mexico are absorbing the bulk of these diverted flows. We can see this physical shift in Mexico right now. Major automotive and electronics manufacturers are spending billions to relocate production lines closer to the American consumer market, aggressively shortening their supply chains. This practice of nearshoring acts as an engineered geographic buffer. By positioning final assembly lines on the same continent as their buyers, companies shield themselves from localized overseas disruptions and sudden geopolitical tariffs. But even with a diversified manufacturing base, those goods still have to move. And once cargo hits the open ocean, it becomes highly vulnerable to severe weather, port strikes, and unpredictable regional conflicts. To stop flying blind during these transits, logistics providers are deploying a new technological framework known as virtual watchtowers. These cloud-based systems ingest fragmented data, ship beacons, weather reports, and news. By comparing real-time vessel speeds against known port capacities, they simulate future bottlenecks weeks in advance. If a threat is detected, the AI dynamically prescribes alternative routes, ensuring timelines stay intact. Achieving this level of situational awareness turns logistics from a reactive scramble into a proactive strategy. It gives companies the visibility they need to survive in highly volatile environments. Eventually, all this cargo arrives at the final hurdle, the border. With the sudden surge in nearshoring, land crossings are seeing a highly concentrated, unprecedented influx of time-sensitive goods. This sheer volume threatens to crush existing customs infrastructure. Persistent labor shortages mean there simply aren't enough human agents to process the incoming freight. The paperwork itself is also a bottleneck. Complex regional agreements, like the USMCA, demand highly specific certificates of origin. If a company wants their electronics to enter tariff-free, the documentation has to be flawless. To prevent congestion, third-party logistics providers deploy AI automation. Algorithms process certificates instantly, bypassing manual human review, and handle trade compliance without delay. Orchestrating this kind of seamless digital clearance is what compresses the overall cycle time. It proves that building a robust, resilient supply chain doesn't mean you have to sacrifice speed. At the macro level, globalization is diversifying. Production networks are transforming into a technologically reinforced web, where routes are constantly recalibrated based on geopolitical risk. The strict efficiency-first model that defined the last 3 decades is over. Modern trade requires a constant, calculated balancing act between risk management and the speed of delivery. Advantage in this new environment goes to companies that use predictive tech and nearshoring to guarantee their cargo arrives. The priority has shifted from finding the lowest possible price to securing the most reliable route.